Hello, my loves. Welcome back to Create Healing. So, for those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Sarah. I'm an intuitive energy healer, and I just wanted to start having some sort of conversations with myself on here. Just wanting to share some of what I'm exploring in my own energy healing of myself, but also in my practice of what I'm sharing and bringing forth into the world. So, I've dived in recently into the connections between modern medicine, Chinese medicine, and energy healing. And this comes about as things come up for clients, questions get asked, and I jump down a rabbit hole and go exploring these. So I just kind of wanted to play around and just recording this to put some content out there as well for you guys. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, stick around, grab a cup of tea, drink of water. Um, just going to touch on how we can bridge between modern medicine, some of the Chinese medicine sort of practices, and then energy healing practices, and how we can actually incorporate all of those things. It's a holistic approach, and that includes medicine. Because we are, you know, whole human beings who need lots of different approaches, and no one person's story is the same. So, welcome, and let's get into it. So, we know that modern medicine is incredible, right? Like the advances that have been made in the last, say, even 30, 40 years are incredible. The capacity for science to be able to measure and detect what's going on in the body, the technologies to be able to remove, things like tumors, treat different things. There's also developments in pharmaceuticals, which we won't get too deep into them, but we do know that some pharmaceuticals are helpful in getting people into a state that they can manage a little better. Where science sort of comes from my personal views and the research that I've done, comes to a bit of a standstill, is that it's dealing with the physical body. It's dealing with what you can see, what can be measured by current technologies. And so I'm noticing in a lot of what people are talking to me about, the more I dig into this, I'm finding that some of where people struggle with medicine is when the doctors have done all of the testing and they've compared it and they try and fit it into, say, a diagnosis of a particular thing that's been seen before. But what the person's experiencing doesn't fit any of that. And so the person's then going through all of this rigorous testing to come away feeling really disillusioned, feeling like their reality is not real, feeling like they're not being supported, that there is no hope, there is no support for that. And that's quite often when people actually turn to alternatives. And we call them alternatives as though medicine is the be all and end all. In reality, the alternative medicines are actually the things that we were doing before modern medicine came along. Things that have been, in Chinese medicine, these practices have been around for thousands of years, and used really successfully, even in energy healing, herbalism, any of that sort of naturopath, even just massage, hands-on healing that has been done since pagan times. And that's prehistory, pre-recorded human history, that there were practices. African bush tribes have their herbs, they have their rituals, their practices that they use. So it's it's really important when we're looking at our health and our well-being, not just to stay focused on our physical body and what a doctor tells us is right or wrong about our physical body, because what's actually can be going on underneath that's causing a physical manifestation of pain or an illness or something like that, from an energy point of view, and this is where Chinese medicine and energy healing work quite well side by side, is that we're talking about flow of energy through these systems, through these organs. And when that flow is not actually able to move freely, that's where we get disease. That's where we get, Chinese medicine refers to it as disharmonies. Sometimes in energy healing, you'll hear it referred to as blockages or imbalances. It's really important to go with what resonates with you the most. I personally quite like the Chinese medicine term of things being in a state of harmony or disharmony, because it feels a little less threatening. To be able to harmonize something seems a little more achievable. Whereas when we look at a blockage or an imbalance, sometimes that can seem like hard work, or that the sort of flow coming out afterwards, after we've unblocked something, that could be really intense. And especially when we start looking at, environmental factors and lifestyle factors that come back to an emotional response, an emotional experience that the person has had, or often than not, it's a stressful experience that that person has had, that has caused them traumas and a trauma response in their body. And what our body does then is it creates a hormonal response. So that's something that medicine can measure. So we can go and have, tests for, say, our cortisol levels, our, dopamine levels, those kind of things, different, estrogen, progesterone, all those sorts of things. We can have tests done, right? We can test whether we have enough iron in our blood. We can test our, thyroid levels. Those kind of things are measurable. Where it gets tricky, and where I personally believe medicine, pardon me, modern medicine is really lacking at the moment, is that it just wants to treat the physical with a surgery, a quick fix, or a pharmaceutical drug, that then you're dependent on that drug and you're treating the symptom. You're not getting to the cause of it. And the only reason that they're not getting to the cause of it is because the cause is not able to be easily explained, and it's not testable, it's not repeatable, because every single person is different. And the range of stressful emotional experiences that an individual has had, you might both have diabetes, for example, but the experiences that have gone unprocessed in your body led to disharmonies and imbalances in your system, resulting in diabetes, could be completely different, could be worlds apart. So then the question gets quite complicated, right? And for some people, if you're in this, but I'm looking at the physical, this is what I can measure, stepping outside of that can be quite overwhelming. But for someone like myself who works in the energetic fields, but is also trying to help people to find ways to shift their life and shift their habits, shift their belief systems, shift their thought patterns, we can actually start to process some of that emotional energy. And it can take time and it can be confronting, which is why I think a lot of people are like, I'm not sure about that. And it seems unbelievable, and it seems a bit woo-woo and a bit magical. And it does take a lot of trust as well, because when you're sitting with somebody like me, you're sort of opening up and becoming vulnerable. And then you're trusting that what I'm picking up intuitively and energetically about these emotional aspects of your past, whether it's past life, generational, or this life, um, it takes a lot of trust and surrender to be okay with that. Whereas we sort of feel that we can trust the doctor because they've studied it, they've had to pass rigorous, testing to prove that they know what they know. And that's great. I can't prove most of what I get a sense of, what I know, but it's in the results that people have. That's what is measurable, and seeing it for yourself, experiencing it for yourself. Most of what, so let's look at Chinese medicine, for example, and I am by no means an expert. I have been exploring this for my own interest to add a depth of understanding. I started looking at learning some Thai massage techniques and working with the meridians. I had already actually been working with the meridians in incorporating in just some gentle massage into my energy healing practice. And a lady said to me, you're working with the meridians. I said, yeah, kind of, but I hadn't at that point looked into it. So jumping down the rabbit hole and looking at Chinese medicine is all about that flow of energy. So the qi that's created, or qi, I like qi, that's created, and that's what helps to make the flow of energy through our organs, through our cells, through our whole life. And so Chinese medicine will look at what causes a disruption to that. And there are emotional, there are physical, environmental, the weather, which we know can affect our experience. And when we look at more energy healing side of things, we're looking at things from the chakras and the layers of your energy field. Now, what I'm finding I like to do is to actually consider all of those things. I like to hear from people what their doctor says. Tell me what the diagnosis is, or the lack of diagnosis. Tell me what the symptoms are. What are you experiencing? Because what this does is it actually gives that individual a space where they're trusted. I'm trusting them. If they're telling me that they have a pain in their left foot, they have a pain in their left foot. Whereas a doctor says, okay, you're telling me you have a pain in your left foot. I'm going to scan it. I'm going to test it. I can't see anything that's causing your pain in your left foot. That can be quite deflating to then go, well, he doesn't believe me. Well, she doesn't believe. I know as an energy healer that if you're telling me that there is a pain in your left foot, that is your body and your energy field sending you a message. And it's just an electrical message to say, psst, there's something here that's ready to be processed. And if we can process successfully the energy of this, then it doesn't have to get more serious. It doesn't have to then be, my body's created a bunion that then the doctor can see and can treat it. Does that make sense? So we get whispers, but we don't learn the language of our body as part of the course. In part because it's not really been a topic of conversation in most cultures. It is beginning to. The ability to share information, the ability to easily publish books and distribute those throughout different circles and in different languages all over the planet is really amazing for this kind of information to be starting to come about at a global level. So it's really a matter, and I guess this is why I'm wanting to record this too, is to be able to put this out and show for people who maybe are having those conversations with doctors and they're saying, sorry, we've tested everything, we can't see what's wrong with you. To know that there are other ways to work with it. So if you're working with a herbalist, they will use different herbs and in different amounts and for different things, because the herbs have a frequency and they will go in and they will work on things in their own way. When we do hands-on Reiki, we have energy centers in our hands. And just like a mother who's comforting their child, we all, we fall over, we intuitively put our hands on our knees. And that's because we're able to actually send that energy that's already coming into us every single day. We're able to send that energy to that point of our body that's in pain or in discomfort and help to balance and heal those things, to help our body's natural systems to heal, because our body does know how to heal. It doesn't need us to tell it how to heal. But if we've been having experiences that put our system into, say, fight or flight mode is the most common. If we're in survival mode, and we're not able to process emotional information very well, our system's not going to work in the way that it could be thriving. Okay. So it's really important for us to look at all sides of things and to be able to understand our system from as many different perspectives as possible. And then we can start to choose practices that we can incorporate into our day-to-day life. And I am not by any means suggesting that everybody has to go out and try yoga, or everybody should go and do, say, chakra dance that I offer. That's not for everyone. For my partner, he loves going to the gym. For him, that is a great way for him to shift and process energy as it's coming up, as he's needing to work through it, because he can use his physical exercises to actually basically burn through some of that energy. He's getting much better at communicating and being able to be honest with himself about how he's feeling, and to actually say, do you know what, I don't want to do that thing, and to set some boundaries, or to say, look, I don't really want to do it, I am going to do it, but this is why I'm not really feeling it, so that we understand each other better. And so how it looks for individuals, that's part of what I work with people, is to look at, okay, well, what are you doing that works? Or what have you found works for you? And quite often people will say, I love being in nature. Okay, but you're feeling out of sorts. Have you been to nature lately? And they'll say no. And that's part of finding a balanced lifestyle that has your rituals and practices in it. And I don't necessarily mean like rituals as in like religious rituals or anything like that, but it's just giving yourself that time of day, being honest with yourself about what you need, whether it's to pick up some art supplies and do a scribbly drawing, to draw like you were 5 years old, with no inhibitions, no worries, not a care in the world. Or whether it's to actually go and learn a specific art form, learn a martial art, go swimming, go shooting, whatever it is. The world is literally a playground for us to explore. But if we get caught in going to work and being stuck in unhealthy habits of drinking, smoking, eating, bad food, thinking, really negative thoughts about ourselves, and not catching them to go, okay, I've been thinking that I'm not worthy of these good things, or I've been thinking that I'm useless or whatever for years. It's about coming to a point where you say that's enough, and then finding the help that you need to get there. And again, not everybody may want to come to an energy healer. It may be that they need to go and see a life coach, or hit up a personal trainer at the gym, or just find a mentor who is interested in a similar thing, or a friend to talk to. But it's really important, and it's becoming more and more important, I think, for people to come back into community as well. And it doesn't have to be an entire geographical community. You might just have a small little niche community. You might like to play Dungeons and Dragons, and that's your community, and that's where you go and you can be your authentic self. But those things are just as important as going to the doctor and checking all of your, weight, height, heart rate, all of those things. The doctor's job will get easier if we're doing our part to actually make sure that we're balanced and healthy. Okay, so I didn't really go by the script that I had prepared at all. And I think I'm just going to leave it there for now, and just really to prompt you, if you've watched this and you've got any thoughts or comments that you'd like to add, anything you'd like, any extra, conversations about, please make sure you drop them in the comments. Really trying this year to put myself out there a little bit more and just talk about the things that I find really fascinating. And again, I'm only sharing from my point of view. I do try and research things as much as I can. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you do really well, please. And even anything that you're like, oh yeah, I've really been meaning to take up that thing, or I've noticed, I have these particular thought patterns that don't help me. And yeah, I'd love to chat. Much love.